like, oh, we've been recording for 15 minutes.
Yeah, we can actually just shut it. By the time we're ready to record, we'll be able to just like shut it down, and that'll be our podcast.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Sure. Yep. Okay. Just wait. Don't say words. Okay. Say words now.
Okay. How's it going? Does it work yet?
You're in my head.
Oh, nice. There you go. You fixed it. What did you do to fix it?
It wasn't letting me enable it because it didn't thing until I plugged it back into the mic.
Oh, okay.
So like I was saying, like I tried it in a bunch of different places, and then every time I tried it in somewhere, the other somewhere wouldn't work. So then I realized the reason it's saying I can't enable it is because I didn't actually have it plugged in. So my computer's smarter than it should be, actually. It should just do what I say instead of being like, nope, sorry, can't do that.
Yeah, that's the dream with computers. Well,
yeah,
you know
right?
what? I guess it's not the
well,
dream.
Like cars and everything.
Yeah, we're moving towards computers that do their own thing now. So it's not really the thing.
Okay, so I need to know all the things. I changed my input sensitivity when you said that I like cut out, but I also moved my mic closer. So I don't know which one actually fixed it or if it was both.
It's probably both. It's definitely actually facing your mic.
Oh yeah, that helps. Yeah, facing the thing you're talking into.
Yeah. I think it was definitely both though, but yeah, as to like the percentage breakdown of like which affected it, I couldn't say.
Talk again.
Okay. Hello?
I talk again. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that I've done that, Discord knows that I have a different output device, and so now it all shows up in Discord. So I can just flip between them, and I can flip between them if I want to, just in Discord.
Yes,
if I get sick of hearing you in my head.
Yes,
because it's listening now. Okay, so I need to know how we're doing on like volume of everything, because there was a couple of them where I also was really quiet. So like, are we good for all the stuff? Like, I'm not cutting out. I sound better than I did before. And is the volume okay? Or I guess you can change that on your end.
So you're not cutting out. You sound okay. And I'm looking at both of our levels right now, and they seem fairly equivalent. So I think we should be okay in that sense as well. I guess whenever we get around
was that different before? Did you notice that our levels were like drastically different in previous ones? I
didn't think so at the time, but then listening back, it definitely was a problem. Yeah. So we'll find out when I actually process this episode. It'll be really exciting.
About is that I'm screaming.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like, people should expect that. They know I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Yeah, I guess we should just like start. Actually, wait. I take that back. I lied.
Okay.
I mean, you can do whatever you need to do, but like.
I hit record about 3 minutes ago, so.
Just like messing with me.
Yeah, so you can actually do whatever you want. We can do whatever. This is our podcast. We can do whatever we want all the time.
I have that much creative freedom.
Yeah.
Like, if you've listened to any of the ones that already exist, like exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Like I was thinking those words while you were saying them, so I got there like a second after you did.
Okay. All right. Do I sound as good as I did, I don't know, 10 seconds ago?
Pretty sure, yeah.
I am not more comfortable, but I should be, because I am not perched on like an ottoman. I'm on a chair.
Okay.
Turns out the chair is not more comfortable, and I have nothing. I don't know what to do with my feet. Are you actually recording?
I am, for real. Yeah. No.
Okay, awesome. That's going to be the title of this episode. I don't know what to do with my feet.
Yeah, perfect. All right, we've already got you know what? I'm going to write that down right now so that I
Shit, I need a notebook, and I'm like, I am like locked into this position. Like, you know, like I've got cords around me. Like, I don't think I could move if I wanted to.
Yeah, you're locked in.
Tried to move, and I might break all of this.
You need to invest in like a mic arm that's articulated so that you can just kind of swing it around wherever you are.
Yeah, well, in a lot of things, and this is not lucrative enough for me to invest in anything to make it easier.
Yeah, well, let's reach out to a bunch of like audio companies that make that stuff and see if they want to sponsor us by sending us a mic arm.
I really want to do, like, to all of the people that are not listening, because people with jobs don't listen to things like this. I don't. Fuck! I just threw my pen across the room. And like that wouldn't be so upsetting, but like to get that, like I like balanced on one toe and I like didn't knock anything over, and now I don't know how I'm gonna get that pen back, Scott. Okay, so I guess I don't need a pen. I have 2 pads of paper though.
There you go. Yeah, that's all you need.
Well, I have my notes that I made before we started, so I have like a general idea of what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay.
But I can't take notes, so I guess you're taking notes.
Oh, good. 4 years of post-secondary taught me that I'm really bad at that, but all right, let's do this.
Really nice too, because I was just like, on second thought, I'll actually just risk everything and go get my pen. If the alternative is Scott taking notes.
No, that should be the reaction. That's smart.
Okay, well, we'll get on that in a minute. We can all be privy to the adventure of me fishing behind my nail polish bins to try to relocate my pen.
Yeah, no,
I'm looking
this is
at
actually
it.
decent. I don't know why we didn't do this before.
Which part? Like what? Like anything?
Just recording you kind of going about your trying to get set up for this thing.
Trying to life. Yeah, we could have started this 4 years ago and it still would have taken us this long to get started.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked
technology
about on this podcast before how we regret not having our like actual office interactions recorded in some way. That's the thing.
That's something we shouldn't regret. I mean, I just feel like it's probably better for everyone that those like die with asked.
Who do you think? This isn't a fair question, but out of our friend group, well, no, it's not a fair question because we only have a name for one person, so we can only talk about one person, and she may not be the answer. We have talked about others,
so I feel like we could be really funny in the way that we talk about the others.
The way that we have to like talk around their actual name. I was going to ask
talked
like
about the one the person, my person. I've talked about her like a lot.
That's true. That's what we'll call her from now
on. Going forward, when we talk about her a lot, I'm not comfortable taking that much possession of her. That's not fair. We've moved past that. Like that's really an unfair thing to say.
All right. Well, what I was going to ask is, out of the people in our group, who do you think is the one giving the like Jim looks at the camera? If we had recordings of the
her for sure, her. 100% her. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Am I wrong?
No, you're pretty right. If I'm also thinking about it.
It's not dilemma, because dilemma is like. I can't. Oh, this is hard. I can't compliment dilemma without insulting the person I just. I can't be like, well, dilemma is so patient or whatever, right? Because like.
Yeah.
No, actually, you know what? She's patient too. It's just that. I don't know. I feel like in a way, she has a higher tolerance for like. Us talking, and so she just sort of like takes it all with a grain of salt, which is why she would be the one like rolling her eyes the biggest.
Yeah, that's true. It's
she's allowed exactly what it is.
She's allowed it to like build up more to the point where she needs to kind of look at the camera.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. It's like it's not about us, it's for her.
Yeah, okay. I see. Yeah, I see that.
It's how she copes. All of our friends have learned how to cope.
Yeah, everyone has different mechanisms to deal with us.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so I don't know how we got on that topic, but yes, technology. I do have to give like a shout out to my brother because, like I said, I'm not willing to go and drop any money on this adventure. So, like, I would not sound this good if it weren't for him having this mic already. Because like this is just a thing that fell into my lap. It's like a pretty expensive mic that we just had in the house.
It's true. It's and to clarify,
feels like destiny.
If anyone wants to, if Blue Yeti wants to sponsor us, that's the mic that she's using. So if you're out there, we're open to sponsors. As we said previously, Chelsea needs a mic arm.
Apparently, I need a mic arm. I also apparently need a footstool.
Somewhere that she has something to do with her legs.
I'm just flinging them over the side of the chair at this point, but it's not the most comfortable thing. But like I sit like a cat on a good day, so that's fine.
It's true.
Yeah.
When we recorded the episode that's going to take me like a month to render because it's so long.
Oh my god.
I didn't bring it up at the time, but I was super impressed at like how you managed to fold yourself up, because I can't like I cannot do that. And as we were talking, I was looking at you like origamiing yourself into the like positions that you were in, and like trying to figure out how or if I could, and I don't think I can. I arrived at thinking that you've managed to like fold yourself into a fourth dimensional space or something. It was like looking at a tesseract.
Yeah, I actually just like, I'm in the upside down, and it's just, you know, it's whatever I choose to show, because I have like 100 limbs apparently. People actually say that, like, that I like how you said I folded myself up, because I do that. That's exactly that's the word picture, Scott.
Yeah, no one will be able to see it in that episode, but she looked like an origami crane. Just imagine that.
Oh, it's so funny. I really think it's hilarious that that's like a thing that nothing else went unsaid in that podcast, but it was something you were like aware of enough, because the funny thing is I don't notice when I'm doing it. Actually, it's really hilarious. I don't know if I should tell this story, but it's funny because we'll just call her because I don't want to call her mine, because I really don't like that. Makes me very uncomfortable. Actually, I super apologize for that. I think that's gross. Like, that really upsets me, and I feel like we should almost cut that part out because it makes me feel so sad. Like, speaking directly to her, I don't own you. You're just my bestie, and I love you lots, and I'm really sorry I said that. You her from now on. So yeah, she's gonna just be a pronoun. Like, her entire, I'm turning her identity into a pronoun because that's better. She was sleeping over at my place like a million years ago. We were in university, and I don't know, I think it was like a party. I think we went to a party and then we came back to my place and she spent the night, and we were in like our bonus room, and so we had like 2 different blow up mattresses, and so she was in like one like across from me, and so then like so she could see me. And in the morning I remember like waking up, and I was like, when I sleep, like I'm even more like, I don't look like origami. I look like a bug. Like, I look like a beetle, or like a different kind of like creature that's like trying to uncocoon themselves. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but if you can picture,
are all
like
tucked in.
Yeah, like, or they're not. Like, it's one or the other. Like, the joke is that when I was a baby, I would like I was gangly, and I think the word sprawling came up a lot. Like, literally minutes after I was born, I didn't curl up like babies are supposed to do. I just like my limbs.
It's like occupied the space that you were given.
A lot of limbs. Like, I don't have more limbs than most people, but there's just a lot to them. I'm lanky. I've always been lanky, and fortunately I'm growing into my limbs. But yeah, like, that's how I sleep. So I'm either sleeping like a full-on starfish, or I am like in the weirdest ways, like not like on your side in the fetal position like a normal human being curls up. Like, picture like the fetal position, but like on your back with like your feet in the air.
So you sleep like a dog. You know when dogs and cats fall asleep on their backs and they're just
and they're like they're chasing the air.
Yeah,
like, kind of like that. My dog's never done that, which makes me sad. But when I brought her home, she would sleep on her back, and I was like, that doesn't look comfortable.
No.
But until this moment, I just realized that like I do the exact same thing. And I never clicked for me. So thanks for bringing that up. I do sleep like my dog.
Do you like dog? Can people tell when you're dreaming? Do you just like start running in there?
Well, now that's just mean. No, but probably. It's funny. So yeah, she was spending the night, and in the morning, like like when you're just first awake, like, you know, you're more in tune with your body than with like anybody else that's present.
Sure.
If that makes sense. So like I was just coming back into my own consciousness. And so I wasn't fully aware that there was somebody there, let alone that they were like awake and watching me. And or like not like staring, but like aware of what I was doing. And then I became aware of the fact that I was so uncomfortable. Like I don't normally sleep like that, but I full on was like my feet were in the air and like but like bent kind of like over my stomach, like I was curled up but like on my back. And so like my feet were just sort of like just hanging out. And yeah, like that would probably be like a weird, like to see someone be like unconscious like that. And she just like, you know, looked at me like, I don't even remember if she said anything. I remember that she didn't need to. Like, it was sort of just like, okay, so like you're weird, but I still love you. Like, it was like acceptance. Definitely not like you're normal. Like, that wasn't part of the look. It wasn't like, okay, that's a normal thing to do. Yeah. But I do sleep very weird. And I fall asleep standing up sometimes. I did that a lot as a kid. I used to sleepwalk. So yeah, like sleeping, maybe that's why I like sit weird, is because I practice sleeping weird every night, and so then it just has like
bled out into
yeah, it's part of my life. Yeah, I do sit like a cat, and like I'm not someone who can go on like a car ride and keep my feet on the ground. Like that's like that would be torture. If like I was in someone's like new car and they were like, you're not allowed to like cross your legs, or you're not allowed to like, you have to sit with your feet on the ground for like 6 hours or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, I'm out. I'll take a cab.
I'll see you in 8 hours on this road trip that I've forced this cabbie into taking.
Yeah, well, that's funny. That's hilarious. So why were we talking about our other podcast? Oh, rendering.
Yeah.
Cat, and the fact that I don't have any good technology. But yeah, like shout out to like, I guess like the company, but like also it's not like, it's directly thanks to my brother that we have like decent audio quality for my end.
Yeah.
And like I guess them for making the mic. So yeah, like
I have heard they do good work. Like I've never used
so
them
like, good
personally,
job,
but
guys.
it is super popular. The brand in general.
Do you want to talk about anything specific, or do we just keep going on to how fucking long our last podcast was and how like our Christmas special is actually going to be like Christmas of 2018?
Yeah, it's rendering now, and it should be ready by next Christmas. I guess we'll give a warning for everyone who's listening to this that at some point there's going to be a like, I mean, it felt like 20 hours. I think the actual runtime is 7 hours that we recorded all in one go. And you get to watch us just spiral into insanity, I think is what that is. That's what this podcast is normally. So like, I can only imagine what 7 hours of it's gonna be uncut audio, because there's no way I'm going in and editing that thing also on top of rendering it.
I feel like we maybe shouldn't post it like normally. Like that actually feels like the thing we should use as our first like Patreon tier.
Oh yeah, you think like a special feature kind of thing?
Starting to think, because even if people don't listen to it, I'm worried what having a podcast that long on our channel will do option of us. And their willingness to like hit play on like episode 1.
Right.
With our friends, like at the New Year's party, I was like, yeah, like it's like really long, and like that, it's like that's a work day. Like nobody wants to spend as long as they're at work listening to us talk.
Yeah, I highly recommend. Again, I don't think this necessarily improves comprehension, but speeding it up to 1.25 might be in your best interest. Might be in any listener's best interest. I don't even really want to listen to it, honestly, and I have to make notes and stuff on the channel.
Listen to it either. I think that's also a reason why we need to like some episodes not to post, or we need to just start posting the ones, like we need to do it on like a week-to-week schedule where we post them a week after we've recorded, because it becomes a little bit too divorced from where we're talking about.
I was actually thinking about that and was maybe going to bring it up because I just watched but haven't made the notes yet for the most recent episode, which is I think episode 6.
Fucking hate that episode, Scott.
Yeah, okay. You do too. Good, because I really didn't like it either. I felt like we didn't really do or say or get anywhere with it. So maybe I'll just pull it down.
It's not about anything. It's so bad, and to be honest, it spiraled me a little bit into like depression when I was listening to it. I was like,
oh shit, like, maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
I'm so glad we're talking about this, and we shouldn't be talking about this on a podcast, because then people are going to be like, wow, they're really
even these guys don't believe in themselves.
But here's the thing, like I felt like 5 was pretty good.
Yeah, I was like coming off of 4. I knew that I wasn't gonna like the next one like as much anyway, so I was kind of like ready for that, but I still kind of enjoyed it. And then I got to 6.
No, it was 4. I really liked 4.
Yeah. 4 is great. So I was like, okay, 5. I went through and like I listened to it. I made my notes. Couldn't really come up with a title until I talked to you at the New Year's party. And then I was like, oh, but generally was like okay with like the content of it. And then I got to 6 as I was listening to it. I was just like, ooh, I don't know about this.
Oh, I'm so glad you feel that way. That really, like, I felt like I was like great headspace this week, like all told, but I had a lot of trouble with that episode because it, like, and I'm serious, like it was like a trigger for me into being like, is this just like the normal way that I feel, like because of like my mood disorder and because like I'm just a little off right now, or is this like, and it was a really fucked up experience because I was listening to it. I felt like in the moment objectively terrible, but then the other thing is like what my mood disorder does to my brain is it tells me that like everything's hopeless and everything is shit, and so when something actually is shit, I'm like, I don't know how to figure that out.
It's like really hard to like separate out.
I couldn't finish listening to it. I started it and then I was just like, oh my God, this makes me feel really bad about myself. Like I couldn't find any redeeming qualities. I started to hate you. I started to hate myself. I was like, I was about to text you and be like, Cass, this is a terrible idea. And yeah, like it's because it had no purpose. And it's funny because now that I A, know that you feel the same way, and B, have the clarity to be able to be like, okay, well, but it doesn't mean that everything that our podcast is bad. It actually is helpful because we joke that our podcast has no purpose, but episode 6 is what that actually looks like, and I think we're better than that.
Yeah, I think we can rise above that for sure. I'm just gonna I actually, as we were talking about this, unlisted it. So for anyone who's listening to this, it'll also remain this like tantalizing thing of like of never being able to know exactly what we talked about.
Be a cult following for episode 6, because we'll have talked about it.
And for all the people that are listening to the episodes that we did like and are like, what the fuck are these people talking about? Episode 6 will be that like thing that they'll be like, oh, but maybe that's the one. It isn't, spoilers, but also you're never going to be able to find it now.
We did this on purpose.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Anytime we talk about something that we haven't like set up or like built up in this podcast, we'll just reference back to episode 6, and that'll just be our thing going forward.
This is the vortex.
Yeah, it'll just be like, oh yeah, remember, like we talked about this in episode 6. Like viewers will remember that. We remember that. Like.
Post the next one, is that going to be episode 7, and then it actually is obvious that
literally the next question I was going to ask. I think I'm going to.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I also feel like we're on a mind meld right now. Like this is super cool.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Everything's firing. It's all good.
Yeah, I think we skip 6, and then we'll just like basically use it like if we suck forever, then it'll just be like it'll take all the blame, and then if we ever stop sucking, it will interesting thing that we can hold over people's heads and be like, look, like we have this cool thing we're not sharing with you. And I don't know, like I don't know the value of that, but you know, it'll be something where there'll be like Reddit forums about it where people are like, has anyone found episode 6? It'll be like the Robin Sparkles of continuous chaos.
Yeah, totally. And then someone yeah, but with the added advantage of like no one will ever be able to come out of the woodwork with that thing. Unless like I WikiLeaks my own episode that I have now talked about not liking on another episode of this podcast.
I mean, somebody would have to give us money for you to do that. Like,
Yeah,
you'd have to sell your soul.
We'll put it at like a $10,000 Patreon tier.
Meet the person, like for a lot of reasons, but I really want to meet the person who has that kind of money to waste. Like I want that person to be real
and is listening to us. Like both of those things together is a very curious thing. Because if you're able to drop $10,000 on a Patreon tier, and have like the time to listen to this or like to like find this and decide you want to listen to this, that is insane to me.
Well, and also, if you're going to waste that kind of money, there's other Patreon tiers you could pick and other companies you could choose.
We'll do it like the Wu-Tang Clan album that they only recorded like one of. It'll just be like one $10,000 person will get to listen to the file. There'll be like a private showing. Like we'll fly out and hang out with you, I guess, like for $10,000.
Okay, how about we like a couple, like I don't know, a percentage of that money will turn into like a scholarship for like,
oh yeah, I like that,
the arts or something, like, you know, like to help like local peeps get their podcasts going, you know, people who don't steal their brother's microphone.
Yeah Well, no, I think it should go to people who do need to steal their brother's microphone.
To be honest with you, like I feel like that's fate. Like if there's no, like that's the only action fate is taking in my life lately, to be totally honest, is that like my brother has this mic that he doesn't use.
Yeah, I actually assume that most podcasts start with people stealing their brother's mics, if I'm being honest. Like I think that's just where they all get their start.
That is probably more true than we think.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when this podcast, whatever ends up going viral, Chelsea's fireplace stuff. At
this point, I really hope, because it's gonna like that secret's gonna die with me.
I'm like looking forward to talking to other podcast people and asking them if that's the case, because I feel like that's probably more common than anyone is willing to own up to.
Different tiers though, and I think the like now that we're doing this, I hear like it's field, like the whole like idea of like podcasts, like it's in my like my meditative, my like Akashic field, and I'm seeing it a lot and I'm hearing about podcasts a lot, but I'm more hyper aware of it. And so when people do talk about them, I realize that it's more in an academic sense or in a business sense. So it's always in an area that seems to have their shit together. And so hearing that they're like popular makes me feel like, oh, that's cool, because it's also something I'm doing. And then they're like, yeah, check out this awesome podcast with this like scientist or this like CEO. And then I'm like, oh, and it's like that, like that cartoon music where it's like, like I'm just like, okay, well that was deflating.
Just the wah 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 wah.
Exactly. You were good at that.
Yeah, I did a lot in band class. I've got a lot of practice.
We should use that as our intro music.
or just the like the da 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 da.
Oh yeah, there you go. See, we don't need musicians.
Yeah, any music or anything you hear is just me making the sounds.
No, one of them it'll just be like me doing the SVU intro.
Oh man, that should just be every intro. We should just record that and put it at the beginning.
That makes no sense.
What if we pivot into being a true crime podcast?
Or we don't do that.
I think we've got somewhere in that 7-hour mess. I think we've got you doing the SVU.
Oh, it's before
intro.
that. We didn't do that in the 7 hours. We did it before that.
Okay. Oh, we did it in episode 6. That's right.
I vividly remember being comfortable.
Not like the 7-hour disaster.
Oh, so is that in 6? Oh no, so no one will ever hear it.
No, it wasn't actually. It wasn't actually in 6. I was doing the joke. I was doing the bit.
I was concerned. Okay, but we've done like 7 and 8, and I don't know how many we've done. So I think it was after 6. No,
it was definitely it was definitely after 6. It was closer to the 7-hour catastrophe. I'm just gonna keep making up names for it until one of them sticks.
We've probably like accumulated like 200 hours by now. It's just gross. It's so gross.
We have 9 episodes recorded. This is 10, and then the 7-hour nightmare on top of that. So we're actually pushing up to the point where we will be recording basically week to week, because we burned through more of that reserve than I thought when we took a break /
when we were both ill.
When we were both collectively sick, yeah.
Okay, well, that's a really great place to do our introduction, because we haven't done that yet.
We haven't.
So
we managed to get...
we are Continuous Chaos.
We managed to get half an hour into an episode without doing that. This is like the equivalent of a late title card in a TV episode.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like, it just... Usually those are the episodes that are really, something's going for them. This is a special episode. So... thank you for joining us. We are Continuous Chaos. I'm Chelsea. He's Scott. And this is apparently episode 10.
This is a podcast where we talk about how bad our podcast is.
Which is also all of them. We've learned that Scott is going to be supplying our intro music. And that's pretty much all we've accomplished in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, and the audience knows that you fold yourself into your chair.
Sit like a cat, yeah.
And sleep kind of
funny. That I sleep like that too. I do, yeah. Like, I mean, I own it. It's not like something that I just do half-ass. Like, it's not like I just do it. Sometimes, like, I do it all the time. So there you go. I have some, like, weird topics to talk about.
Okay.
I want to go back. So the funny thing about episode 6 is that the reason I got really sad was because I didn't like it. I couldn't figure out why, but I also can't figure out why I like the episodes that I do like. And so that scares me a little bit, because I'm like, I was listening to 6 and I was just not feeling it. And because it was so like deep into it, like it's 6 episodes in, I was like, I don't want to put that pressure on us. But also I kept thinking, if somebody listens to this and it's the 6th episode and they've gotten this far, this is even more disappointing, because it's nothing. Like it's so stupid and pointless. And I like that it's unscripted, and I like that we just talk about whatever. And that's kind of what leads me to want to do them more in real time, because that it lends itself well to the being unscripted, because it's whatever is really true to us in the moment. We can really talk about what's going on in our lives or in the world, or things that lots of people are talking about, and we can speak to it, kind of like deafened by new stuff.
Yeah, that actually, that makes sense to me, and I like that a lot better also, because I think there were a few times, and I can't point to specific instances of it, but there would be like stuff happening, and then there was kind of a push-pull, because I like wanted to talk about it while we were recording, but then also knew that we wouldn't be getting to it for another like, or it wouldn't be airing for another like 4 weeks, and we would kind of lose the immediacy of it.
Yeah, exactly. And now that we have a Twitter account, hey, by the way, we have a Twitter account. Yeah. Follow us at Chaos Continued. By the way, I love that handle. It's a good handle. I'm glad that I won that one.
It's true.
But it was also, it was, we do everything by committee. Yes. No, but I won that one.
Was I advocating for the other one that hard?
Well, no, but like you and my mom were, and then like I feel like it felt like it was coming from, and then I was like, then you did, and I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy. The thing that I kept thinking was
on, like,
saying
your mom's
it.
Side of the. I end up on your mom's side of arguments like a lot. I've noticed that, because every time you put everything to committee, I'll send you, I'll like message you or say something to you, and you're like, oh yeah, that's also what my mom said.
Or the opposite. And that's what bothers me because you're not consistent. Like neither of you are consistent with your agreements. And so it's like I can't remember if it was the logo or something else. Oh no, it was my logo.
It was
remember?
Your logo. Yeah, I do
and
remember.
You were on one end and then my mom was on the opposite end, and then almost said her name, but I stopped myself. And the other person, who is she, was on like kind of a middle ground area. And like the thing that was confusing is that all of you disagreed with each other for completely different reasons. And I was like, well, I don't know how I feel anymore. So yeah, but I still like where I ended up on that too, so that's fine. No, but the Twitter one, I kept thinking like if we were talking and if I was saying it, and if I ever were to say, or if you ever were to say, like at the end of a podcast, continuous chaos, follow us at chaos continued. That sounds better, but we would we already all like trip over our words. So trying to say continuous chaos and we're continuous chaos, it would be, feels like chunky. I don't like the way it sounds.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, I don't know how to fix this in the middle of us recording, but you're cutting out in the middle of your sentences every once in a while.
Ah.
Yeah, and I I don't know what the fix for that is, especially since like we're recording this and doing it live. But that's happening on my end, so just be aware of that. I might have to ask you to like repeat. Like not every sentence, but like not every other time, like every third time or so, something like that. It's not been so bad that
it might be that I was like playing with something.
Possibly. It's not so bad that I haven't understood you so far. Hopefully, we'll find out.
But we're on a mind meld. I'm more worried about the all y'alls that might be listening.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's always the concern, is that they're not going to understand what's going on.
But we need to give them a fair shot. Like, they need to hear the words, even if they don't understand what we're getting at.
Yeah, they need to hear the best possible version of our mess. All right, so you have some weird topics for us to talk about.
I guess, that's kind of what I actually had written on my pad first, was that we needed to talk about episode 6, and we needed to talk about how we should do them more consistent. And I wanted to get your take on episode 6, and then also if there's anything you can think of, like any like safeguards that we could, I don't know, figure out so that we can stay true to what we're trying to do, but then also hold ourselves accountable in a sense. Like if we're getting to like podcasts and theoretically there's like 1 or 2 people out there, like, I mean, you have friends in your life and I have friends in my life who don't know each other, who are all individually excited. And that's been interesting for me to witness. It's not our group of friends who are listening all the time. There might be other people who are, and I feel like more accountable to that than I thought I would. On it to affect how we do this. So, like, how do we prevent the episode 6s?
I don't know that we can necessarily. Like, I actually see episode 6 as an inevitability of the format that we've chosen, because we've chosen to do it sort of off the cuff. Like, it's sort of, to me, episode 6 is sort of like going to improv and them having like an off night, or like things just like aren't quite landing in a skit or something like that. I think it's just like statistically bound to happen. Like I actually am pretty surprised, having pre-recorded 9 episodes of this, that it got to 6 episodes before we hit one where we were kind of like, that didn't really do it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that part of why it took why it's more amazing that it took so long is not just that it took 6 episodes for kind of both of us to be like, ooh, I don't like that. That I remember after listening to, I mean, the first, like, I like listening to the first one because it's still novel. Like, our tomato conversation is fun, but like I think 4 in 1, that gets confusing too. So like when we did like 4, we both kind of came back afterwards after listening to it and we're like, that was really good. Or I was texting you being like, hey, like I couldn't believe how much I liked this episode. Like we liked them more than we expected, I think.
Yeah, totally. Especially
felt
listening to
more
them
like
back
lightning
because,
in a bottle. Yeah, I didn't think I'd like listening to them.
Yeah, like me listening back to them was part of the production process for me. So I was thinking like I went into it thinking, oh, this is just kind of a thing that I have to do to make sure that like I didn't fuck up somewhere in there, and like there's no like actually episode 6 on the production side weirdly led to also the most problems like technically for some reason, because like I think I ended up rendering that episode like 4 times because the first 2 times the audio was weird, and the third time there was no audio despite me having changed like nothing in my production pipeline. So I ended up posting that episode, like I think you can see it, but I uploaded it at like 6 in the morning it was supposed to go up, or something like that.
I was gonna ask you what was up with that, and like that just seems like, again, like it wasn't meant to be, you know, like everything about episode 6 felt like it was forced. And it's like, maybe that's it, like we just have to be really intentional, and we have to be on the same page with ourselves and each other to just be like self accountable to that too, because when I listened to 6, it was a weird experience, because like I said, like I listened to it at a point where I didn't know if that was authentically my opinion or if it was my mood disorder affecting my opinion. But then I also became more aware when I was like getting all in my head about it. I was like, maybe that's going to become a problem. And do I need to be aware that there's just some days where it's not a good idea for me to record because I'm not going to be as in touch with myself, and like it'll just be like fighting an uphill battle. It's not worth it, regardless of like what it is, whether it's like a bad work day or like we, you know, fought with somebody on the street. Like I mean, I don't know, like, you know, if we have like a weird day scripted, and because we're essentially being ourselves, that stuff can have an impact, and we have to be aware of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I think going forward it will definitely be important to know, though at the same time I think maybe it might be good for us to record anyways and then just know it won't necessarily be posted, because I think sometimes that stuff can also potentially like bleed into the podcast like in a positive way, if that makes sense to you.
Oh yeah, completely. Like it could probably lead to our more like serious discussions or things that could be really great episodes. But I think like you hit the nail on the head. We need to just be, there's a level of trust too, like that be willing. Like I think we have like ultimate veto power, and like we just need to trust each other. So there might be episodes that happen that we don't both agree on, where you really love it and I'm just not okay with it.
Right.
And I think that that's a balance, and I'm not worried about that at all, because I think that we're both critical thinkers enough that like we can assess if it's something like, if I'm just how I sound and I don't really like it, but I'm not like you should take it down, versus like I wouldn't play the like take it down card unless I really mean it, and then as a result, like because you know I really mean it, and vice versa. Like we're not just going to do that every time we like don't like it. Yeah,
for sure. But when we do, like, we need to treat it with the gravity that it deserves, because it just really wasn't worth. Like and like I'm actually now that we've had this conversation, I think I'm more at least open to entertaining that, because before I was kind of going from the like, well, we've got it recorded, so it's going up, where I was actually like, I thought about messaging you about this or talking to you about episode 6 in some way for like the last week since it went up, and then like didn't, because I'm like, oh, but what if she really likes, or like something, you know, and that made me really like weirdly self-conscious. I don't know, it was a weird process putting that thing up. And then I think the first time I noticed was when I went, like, I did my listen to make sure it uploaded properly, and then I couldn't really like land on a title or anything like that I wanted to put in the notes. I was just like, everything I approached every facet of this episode with like a weird sense of reluctance.
And I think that when I went into it, like I kept looking, and I'm so glad we're talking about this. And maybe, I don't know, like maybe we can pull out some deeper meaning or like larger social issues from this discussion to make this valuable to the rest of the world.
Yeah, there was some good that came from episode 6, except for all of the stuff in it. Remember to look at the Patreon tier where we'll send you like the $10,000 copy of episode 6.
We're gonna go from this discussion, but yeah, like I think what's really interesting about us talking about it is that we consult each other, but that's weird because we consult each other about the stupidest shit. And like this is something we didn't, and yet like you were clearly having like thoughts about it, and then like this just brings up to me how much like you don't know what's going on in someone else's head, and that like we make so many different assumptions. So you didn't title it, and I thought it was going to be up earlier because all the other ones usually were because you have them scheduled. And so I was surprised when it wasn't up even the night before. And then I again like didn't say anything to you because I didn't want to say something and be like, you think that I was like pressuring you, because I don't super care if it gets uploaded on time, and I know that's probably more important to you than it is to me. And if we had more viewership, then maybe I would care more, but
we would have more of a vested interest.
It's not really something that is a big deal to me. And so I was sort of expecting you to like message me and be like, hey, like something came up or work's crazy or some other thing happened and I just can't get to it. And then I would have been like, yeah, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. And so then when it was up and then it didn't have a title, I was like, well, this is like weird. Cause then I thought like if you couldn't get to it, then why didn't you just not do it? And then I listened to it. And I was like, holy shit, this is like so bad. Like,
what did we do?
Listening to the first half of that episode made me feel like being on it makes me feel when I'm really in a bad mood. Like I was just like, this is not doing anything for my self-esteem or my sense of self or like my insecurities. Like I was just like, I hate everything that this episode is. And that I knew that I needed to stop listening to it. But then it made me feel like crap because I was like, I know myself enough to know what the feeling is. But then it made me sad that it was something that I had created. And it was something that we're both really proud of. And that was the thing that I needed to turn away from because it was making me feel so crappy. And then I had to deal with all those feelings. And yeah, like and then I was like, well, maybe he really liked it. And that's why he put it up. Because if he hated it, wouldn't he have said something? So that's very complex.
Yeah, there was a lot happening with the production and posting of that episode that's now taken down, but can be yours for the low price of $10,000.
I feel like it does a disservice to how bad it is, though, that you keep trying to sell it when we're like
that we're putting it at the highest echelon of our podcast.
I'm like, it literally made me depressed.
Yeah, no,
please go buy it.
Yeah, to be clear, it's not a good episode of the podcast. And it also like really sucked because it was in such close proximity, episode order wise, to episode 4, which we spent a large amount of time like talking about how much we did enjoy it and like how much I listened to it. I've listened to that episode like twice now. Once because I like quote unquote had to make sure that it uploaded and rendered properly. But then again, because I'm like, oh, this is actually good. Like I enjoyed us. I enjoyed what we talked about. I think we did good work there, and it was just like it was such a swing. And I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it so soon. Like I really thought that we were on like an upward trajectory, and that's why I felt like a little bit safer than I should have going into episode 6. And so it kind of hit me more because I was like, oh my God. And to be fair to episode 6, in whatever iteration it might go public one day, it could be good because we've taken the time to talk about it in this way, and it'll stand as like an example of whatever it is. So like if
resonates with like other creators or just other people, and then it were to be released, it could give context to something, and then maybe like if we weren't to listen to it for like a year and then we go back to it, we would see it different, or we would be like, well, this wasn't as bad as we thought. Or it like provides a little bit more insight to who you and I are as creators and as people, if and once that does become public, because it's like showing people what something is that we've clearly have a lot of feelings about, and they're not entirely positive.
Yeah, and it's like it was something that was, yeah, like we touched on it before, I'm pretty sure, but yeah, like we were bound to have an episode like this at some point. So like in a way, it's probably also better that it happens as early as episode 6, so that we kind of know about it and are aware of it going forward. But yeah, it
but
is...
again, and we need to know how to deal with it, and how, like you said, like that we don't just post everything. Like now we know how to handle it, and like just the way that we do it, where you're doing the post production, and then I listen to them because I'm taking notes and I'm checking stuff off of like what we've already talked about, and then making the ever growing list of stuff we're supposed to get to later, and then just making sure that that's all like kept track of, because like continuity is important. And to speak to that as an aside, to me, and it's starting to frustrate me a little bit, that I think maybe this was episode 6, and there was a lot of things that I don't know why I didn't like it, but one of the things that came up for me in episode 6 is that I felt like we had talked about everything in that episode before.
Yeah, I didn't this is gonna sound bad, but like this is also the episode where like when I was listening to it, I was kind of doing something else at the time, and that was probably like maybe the earliest sign that this episode wasn't us at our best, because most of the time like I've been able to, if not listen to it exclusively, I like, even if I was doing something else at the time that I was listening to the other episodes, it was still like in focus enough that like I knew it was happening and stuff. But like I kind of tuned us out at points through that. So like I really only sort of remember what we talked about in it, but I
don't have the details either.
Yeah, but from what I remember, that's like, yeah, like I don't. One of the many issues with that episode is that, yeah, we didn't really break into anything new, or even revisit it in an interesting way, I guess, or reflect on it.
Well, and I'm glad you said it that way, because I don't want to just like discount that we're gonna repeat ourselves sometimes, because we are. That's just gonna happen, and we talk about kind of very large and almost generalized issues in a way. So we talk about them in some ways in one episode, and then if we come back to them, if we're linking them by saying we've talked about it before, you and repeating it, because we might get somewhere new with it, or we might have some new insight, or something might be more of a current event that could apply to it. So I don't think that it's a matter of like being careful that we don't repeat ourselves, but just from a continuity perspective, making sure that we're not saying the exact same thing over and over again, because what's the point, and who wants to listen to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, so I think for my end of that stuff, I'm going to look at making sure. So to give some insight into the production pipeline of this podcast, which I know it doesn't always seem like we have one, because we have spent multiple episodes now talking about what we're going to be doing for this stuff. I do export like the raw audio of the recordings pretty much immediately, so maybe I'll find a way to make that available to you in a more immediate way, so that we can kind of like listen to it before I go all the way into turning it into like a full episode, and that way we can kind of do kind of a post-show like debrief or something, and we can kind of like, yeah, we can kind of talk about that more, and whether that becomes an on-camera or on mic or off mic thing is another thing I guess we'll have to talk about. But yeah, we can just add another set. So maybe instead of sitting down and recording like 4 episodes in a night, we can record like 2, and then also like make some time to kind of talk about how we how we felt about that stuff.
A new podcast every Thursday, and then after show on like another day.
The podcast after show. And that's where the value of and why I kind of push for doing this recording stuff in Discord is because there's kind of a built-in community tools. So we could even like just like for that post show just throw a link to our Discord in there, and then like viewers can get in on that.
That could be fun. It could be fun. I super like Discord. I have to admit, I'm not a gamer, so I've never used it until this. But it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it's really.
I mean, except when I'm getting really frustrated with it, and that's not its fault. That's usually like that's only my fault. Like I'm not even gonna blame my technology. That's just my fault.
Yeah, no. I have used. We switched over to this. A few years back, I want to say, like my primary gaming group, and I've only added like more stuff and software and programs into the route that it takes audio to get from like my face to other people's faces and vice versa, and I still struggle with it and learn with it constantly. So don't feel bad about that, because it's a really cool program. Like I probably like it the best overall of any of the like social stuff that I do, but it is definitely an experience, and often a learning experience.
So yeah, like I get that, and that's what makes it kind of good, because it does a lot for us like in this sense now, but I also see that it could work for us like later for like larger things. So it has a lot of dynamic ways we could use it, and I like that we're using it like to start with, so we don't have to move to something bigger later.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we won't have to worry about like for now we won't have to worry about like transitioning out of this platform. Like it's built to scale in the way that like hopefully it will eventually.
Yeah, and I think that it's argue that like the structure that we have established now or so far is not fitting with what we actually are like producing, but something we can grow into. But I don't think that it's so much so that it's like not efficient. So I think that we have a good balance, and that's also what I like about us. Like this podcast today has turned into just like kind of planning, and I don't know if that's something that a lot of people show, and we are very, very new to this. And I'm new in the sense that I don't listen to podcasts, and this is kind of an experience for both of us as creators. So I think it's kind of a cool thing to show. And if we label them or we tag them in such a way that, you know, not everyone needs to listen to the podcasts that are more planning based, but the process, like it's about the episodes that don't land and how we feel about them and how we navigate that, and then planning for the future of what we do, and then kind of the technological side and the logistics. So I think that this is stuff that everyone deals with when they create. I just don't know, like most people are more polished, and so sometimes it's cool that we're not.
Yeah, I mean we build this as a podcast about everything. And this is part of that, is like we're going to be talking about the stuff that we like and don't like as this podcast becomes whatever it becomes, kind of at the end point of all of this, when it turns into like whatever a fully realized idea looks like between the two of us.
Yeah, exactly. If we ever even get there.
Yeah.
What's funny about like the podcast part of it is that if nothing else, like I was going to say, like it's giving both of us like tangible skills that we can use theoretically. And that's big for me because I'm unemployed still. Shocker. And yeah, like that's a super depressing thing. But then I realized like this isn't something that I really like. It's not that I'm ashamed of it. It's not that I'm not proud of it, because I so am. But I am still not at a place where I want to like reconcile this with my professional life. So that's a little bit interesting too, because I'm not against it. It's just, it also feels like something that is complicated. is the way that I'm going to put it. Because like I'm so proud of it, so much more proud of it than I thought that I would be, and that I ever imagined it could be when we were talking about it like 4 years ago. Because 4 years ago I was like petrified about it because I was like, oh, there's so many permutations of what this could be. And now that it is, and it is something, even though we don't know what that is, whatever it is, I'm proud of it for the most part. And it's really fun to do. And that's something that stayed the same for me. So even though coming off of like listening to episode 6, I was kind of feeling crappy about it, I was still excited to record again. So the experience of recording and learning and this process is still very fun. And then if listening to them is fun too, then that's kind of a bonus. And I've gotten used to that, I guess. Hence why 6 was such a disappointment. But I don't know if it still feels like kind of juvenile or naive of a project that we're doing. And so I don't know if I'm giving it the credit that it deserves, because I'm proud of it. And it's something that it's one of the only things that I'm telling people about. Like I'm not telling people about it or too, that it's like weird to promote it. But I've noticed that it's very easy for me to promote it when I'm talking to people one-on-one. And it's people I haven't talked to in a while or people I'm catching up with. And it's the thing that I'm doing in my life that is kind of eclipsing everything else, because it is an actual project that I'm actually working on and thinking about all the time. So it's actually really easy to talk to people if they're the right people in that way. And yet when I thought the other day, I kind of had like a thought where, what if I was in an interview that these kinds of skills would be applicable? Like, not many people can think on their feet. Not many people can articulate themselves in a way when they don't have time to prep for it. And it's not something that I would ever like be like, oh yes, let me put my hand up. Oh boy, I'm great at that. But it's something that I think comes more naturally to myself than I realized. And you're obviously good at it. We're obviously good at whatever we're doing together. So those are skills that are unique and they're marketable. But I can't see myself an interview. And I realized that it's not because I'm ashamed of it. It's because I'm more worried that other people would see it as like, oh, that's cute. Like you have a little podcast with your friend. Like, see it as bigger than maybe other people would.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you completed you started doing cutting in and out towards the end of that.
Sorry.
No, it's
soliloquies, because I won't know if I'm cutting out.
I know it's it's a huge like I like that was the point where I was like, oh shit, maybe I should like pause this and bring this and bring this up, because it was starting to get to the point where I was worried I was filling in more blanks than I should have. But
see, and I wasn't playing with any chords or anything, so I was hoping that before it was just because I was messing around with my mic.
Right. I wonder if it's just a. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to speculate on this, because in the event that this does go wide, we're gonna have a comment section full of people being like, "No, it's this, you idiot." And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, obviously." So I'm not gonna give them the satisfaction or the opportunity. But no, I think that to that point, you're right, and the reason
my point.
And the
or
reason,
do I have like, I'm really sorry that I didn't know that I was cutting out.
No, that's fine. I don't like I could have, I guess I could have like messaged you in Discord or something to just be like, hey, JSYK. But to the point that I'm mostly sure that you were making towards the end of that, I think you're right, because I used this podcast and a bunch of other stuff from my like gaming life literally in a business presentation a couple of days ago. So they like, there are definitely marketable skills that you can take away from this, and anything really. Like here's the life advice for the audience that you probably don't need, because you're in a way better place than I am. But as long as you do stuff and learn stuff, then you'll be able to kind of take that and translate it into something that will be able to carry you forward in some way. Like this is all stuff that I never thought that I would use in any professional regard. And it's Yeah, there's the technical, like the production side of it, certainly, but yeah, being able to think on your feet and articulate those ideas clearly, quote unquote, is absolutely something.
If we so choose.
Yeah. So it's certainly something we aspire to, if nothing else. But no,
it's good practice.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, no, I totally think there is merit in this, and if nothing else, like we've to date managed to produce something that we are proud of, at least 5/6 of. And so yeah, like whether it goes wide or not, and like yeah, it would be super fun if we did. And you know what, even we're talking about like we shouldn't be worried about circling back on stuff if we can advance an idea. Like I think this is in even the first or the second episode, like we were kind of talking about the idea of like what success for this podcast looks like, and like if I recall, was looking at it from kind of a viewership angle. But by the time we got to like episode 4 and I was listening to episode 4, like I totally understood. I mean, I understood where you're coming from at the time, but like I more, I understood it better because it was an episode that I was like I was 100% happy with it without anyone other than us having seen it. Just to know that like we recorded it and did it and then put it out there, and then listening back to it was like, yeah, it was so satisfying, that I think in a lot of ways like this podcast is already a success just based purely on that merit.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and I think that we've almost switched places in a way, because as we kept doing it, I maybe got wrapped up in the idea that maybe people would listen to it, and like in my mind, like in my tiny mind, like 20 people is a lot of people. Like I'm not even thinking like of going viral. Like that's not, like I'm not that deluded. Like I'm like if like 50 people listen to an episode, I'd be like, oh my god, Scott, we're famous. Like
I still live every day thinking that I'm going to wake up and see someone posting it on Facebook with like 1 million views. It'll be freebooted. we won't get any of the credit. Like there'll be like they'll superimpose like the name of our channel in the video somewhere, and that's all we'll get. Someone else will have racked up the millions of views. But yeah, that's still, yeah,
so we're still on different planes in that regard. Like I'm just waiting for like 20 or 50 people, and like we're on different levels, and that's fine. But at the same time, like I like that I can still take myself back to just the simplicity of, do I like doing it? And that's what keeps me grounded in it, because world where lots of people listen, whether that's like millions or whether that's like 20, I want to know that whichever amount that looks like, that it's still something that's authentic and that we're proud of, regardless of if it was no people. And so the only way I think we could possibly get there is by being conscious of that, like at every level. And I'm not worried about getting caught up in that, because we're creating like safeguards for it now. Like that's a compliment to me. I want to know that if one day we wake up and there is like thousands of people listening to our podcast and commenting on it, I don't want to like kind of do a double take and be like, oh, well, like a couple weeks ago, we tried something different that I didn't really feel great about. Know that it's like, this is something that we are proud of and that is us. And if that gets attention, then that's great. And that's a huge compliment. But if it doesn't, that's still enough for me, because the alternative would make me feel like shit.
Yeah, definitely. So this, yeah, I like that. This has been a super interesting episode. It's been a very meta episode for the podcast.
It really has, yes. I have a Discord story to end off. It's an anecdote.
Have you joined?
So you're talking about.
Just quickly, have you joined any other Discords? Is there like are you an active member of like some community or something now?
No, not at all. This isn't even really a Discord story. This is just more of like this is just a funny anecdote that I was going to share before when you were talking about Discord. Uh-huh. So when I said like, oh yeah, it's cool and I've never used it before. Yeah. So there's like my inner circle is like built of like, it's basically split in half between the people who know what a podcast is and the people who don't. So a lot of the people, like I did mention it to my grandma actually, because I was like, that would be super cool if I did an episode with her. and I don't know what it would be about, but yeah, like she's a really cool person. And I was like, okay, but how do I explain to her what this is and what I'm doing? And so that is like thinking. I was just sort of like talking to like my aunt or talking to my grandma. And then I was like, it's like a radio show on the computer. And that made sense to her.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like also what it is. And so she got that. But then I was so in that mode that like at Christmas, I was talking to some of like the younger people in my life, like cousins and second cousins and people like that. Yes, exactly. Because saying it like that doesn't make us sound like we're 100. Yeah, I mean, I know I said
close to it. I just realized what my like how many birthdays I will have had at the time of my next birthday, and now like I'm certainly starting to think of it in that way because it's really weird.
Like a thing that you're thinking about. Because you know what,
not in like a big way or in a way that's like affecting me on any I guess conscious level, but it is still like a weird thing to think about because like the number that I am turning is
number
like is like sort of
is
that,
like a bigger.
Oh, and it's one of those things that like for most of my for at least 2/3 of my life has seemed like so far off that it wasn't like a real thing. And now I'm there, and like that's pretty weird.
See, this we'll have to pick this up in the next podcast because that's fascinating to me. And I won't say anything else about it, but yeah, we'll talk about it in a minute. Okay, so yeah, it was at Christmas. We're over the holidays. I was talking to, I know I'm not doing myself any favors by describing people as the young people in my life. That's not better. Many of them, like when I was trying to socialize my dog with like kids, I was like, oh my God, where am I going to find kids? Like, I don't know kids. So anyways, and like this person, I don't know, like they're not like a kid, they're like a teenager. But anyways, I was like talking about it and I felt so stupid and so old because I was in the mode of like trying to be like, this is what a podcast is. And so then I said podcast, like I assumed they knew what it was, which was fair. And I was like, they're like, oh, so like, how do you do it? Cause I was like, oh, maybe one day like you could be on it. Cause they were really excited about it. And like, you're sort of talking around it. And I thought that would be awesome to have younger voices talking about social issues that we talk about. If they're willing, that would be so cool. I don't know if we'd have to get like a parental signature. Probably we should, because this is like not safe for work.
Yeah, not even a little
just putting that out there. But like they're cool. So anyway, I was like, like they're like, oh, like how do we do it, or do I come over to your place, or how does it work? And I was like, oh, like we use this like app, Discord. And I was like waiting for them to like be confused. And they look at me and they kind of cock their head to the side and they're like, yeah, I know what Discord is.
Yeah, like obviously.
It was like I said Facebook. And literally that was the example that I used in my head. And then I remembered this article that I read that was like, only old people use Facebook. And then it like I was just like, oh my God. And then cue like the sad cartoon music.
just like the one sad violin playing.
Yeah, I was like I was literally like in my head when they said it, I was like, I'm talking about like Facebook, and then like this other like I don't know, the devil on my shoulder was like looked around my neck at the like angel on my shoulder and was like, excuse me, like to them Facebook is like MSN Messenger. And I'm like, oh my God, why am I so disconnected from the world,
from the youths?
It was just the way they looked at me. Like, I know what Discord is, but like the way that I said it to them, like I was trying to be like
you were ahead of the curve when you started that conversation.
I was trying to be patient with them.
Yeah,
it ended with them trying to be patient with me.
They were entertaining you.
I know, exactly. And like they were being really nice about it. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus here, but I was like, well, that was nice of them that they didn't like condescend to me in my lack of knowledge. And then like it was so funny. I just leaned into it because then I was like, oh, good. So can you tell me why when I try to disconnect, it doesn't work?
That's who you were talking to at the beginning of this when you were trying to get the thing set up.
I was like, oh, great. Now you can help me fix all my technical issues. Yeah. So there you go. This was a good episode. This was probably only good for people who have podcasts, but hey, that is, or anyone who creates.
I feel like this is going to be a fun one for like me to listen back to, or like us to listen back to,
for
maybe
sure,
more so than other people, if that ever happens. But yeah, no, I had a good time making it. Like I feel good coming out of this one. Also, actually, even just I'll tack on to your Discord story with my own Discord story. So I said earlier in this episode that we switched to it like a few years ago or something like that. We were using a different program that is similar to it called Mumble, and the reason that we now use Discord is because we were some of us were playing a game with a person that we don't normally game with, and we sent them the like Mumble credentials, and then she apparently I wasn't there for this. I just know that I woke up one day and I had like 6 messages from different people being like, hey, we're on Discord now, go here. And I was like, all right, cool. But this person that we're playing with, she was like kind of shaming us for using like old man Mumble, and so we switched to Discord like overnight. so we even got to it like we were aware of it, but we were kind of in the thing of like, well, we've got a Mumble and it works, so we just kind of stuck with it, and then the reason that we changed was absolutely because a youth shamed us into switching to Discord.
So like we are ahead of the curve right now, being like, hey, we use Discord. Like we're like,
yeah, no, we are late to the party. I was even late to the party like when I started using it, but I also now really like it. So
yeah, no, it's great. It's really good. I get why like people shame people for not using it. It makes sense to me why it's such a big deal.
Yeah, like in a perfect world, I would have like all of my just like regular friends in here. Also, like even people who don't play games, like this would just be my central hub. Is how much I like Discord.
Given how this episode started and my still waning knowledge on how to use it, I don't know if I could have my whole inner circle on here because I probably wouldn't know how to talk to them all. But I can see where you're coming from. Like I do like the voice ability on this. This is really cool.
Yeah, and it's got video if you want to go that route as well. Like they just built that in quite recently. And then yeah, you have like your text channels where you can keep everything categorized. Like no, I'm not saying that we should use video. I actually like actively advocate against it unless it's something that like we'll put that you know what? We'll put that as the $10,000 Patreon tier. If people want to pay us to do video, then sure, but like the amount of like extra infrastructure and just like my actual like for me to be like camera ready like face wise.
Oh no, like we talked about this already. I need a makeup artist. If you're putting me on camera, I get a makeup artist.
Yeah, like is such that I would want like 8 backers at the $10,000 level so that we could hire someone full time to just make sure that we are camera ready.
Yeah, that's the only way I feel okay about that.
Or one backer at the $80,000 level, I guess.
There is something like to be said for like just being, you know, like no filter and like, you know, no makeup and all that crap. But and like, you know, it's fine. Like I'm comfortable with myself. I like myself. It's all good. And I'm not somebody who will like I am super fine with how I look to go to the grocery store or like any of that shit. But no, do I want my face like blasted all over the internet without like a little TLC? No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Like I in that situation where we're like making something for people to consume, I absolutely want to be not just my best self, but like
I want to be better than myself.
Yeah, like whatever the level is above, like I will bring my best self internally, but I also need to be my best self externally, and that requires someone else, like another party, to make that happen.
Yeah, like I need assistance with that, especially because if this thing, what it would be, we would like. The only reason people would be looking at it is to look at our faces and listen to us talk, and like that's no, like if I'm actually inviting people to come and look at my face like all over the world potentially, I need to look a certain way.
Yeah,
And then,
absolutely.
like people that do like the no makeup and the no filter, like the reason that those people are celebrities is because they have somewhere to fall. Like it's only interesting when you get to see someone without it. Like we've talked about this in one of them. I hope it's not number 6 because that was an interesting makeup conversation. But
It definitely
like
wasn't
that,
6. It was later than that. I remember that
okay,
for sure.
because I like that one. That one was good. And without
I
it,
felt
what
good
we're
about that
saying
one.
now makes less sense.
Speaking of continuity.
Really, like they're only going to be, well, yeah, exactly. Like in this case, repeating ourselves actually helps. But yeah, like if celebrities like get away with it better because they can be like, look at how natural and great I am. And it's like, yeah, the only reason we think you're beautiful naturally is because we see you looking like a superstar all the time. And so maybe a thing that I did after we do a couple like video versions where I look amazing, I just go on my cell phone and I would do like, I do Facebook Live and I'd be like, hey guys, like I just woke up and like, and I would do like 5 seconds of that because now there's something to compare it to. But if I could do that tomorrow. I could just be like, hey guys, I just got up. It's 11 a.m. I'm unemployed. This is what my face looks like. Like nobody wants to watch that because it's not like back. It's just depressing. Nobody needs to see that.
Yeah, exactly. So look forward to the upcoming $80,000 Patreon tier where we hire a production team.
Where Chelsea gets a makeup artist.
This is just gonna turn into like the BuzzFeed Try Guys where we just like end up going out and doing stuff like getting a makeup artist.
With that next episode too. Okay, so since this is still the planning one, I have a question for you because we're talking about doing another one. I'm assuming we're doing it right away. Manage the whole after show thing and also doing it more consistently. Yes, more consistently in real time kind of thing, like within the week. But then what are your feelings on like recording multiple episodes?
I think that that's actually a really good point because usually a lot of the time we kind of just end up having other stuff to talk about anyways because we're who we are and we end like we're already in the channel and so we start talking and so I end up hitting the record button.
Yeah, it's easy. And also we prime ourselves. So I don't know, I land on both ends because it's like I get that if we do too many, it gets old and we risk having an episode 6. But then also once we're like I feel like those middle ones end up being really good because we're kind of
in the groove and whatever. So I think what it should, if I'm thinking about this, and this will be something maybe like to try, like we're not married to it necessarily. I would say if we feel so compelled to record multiple, then if we feel we have multiple episodes in us, we should give it a try. But like I almost wonder if we should leave the ones we don't end up using from that like session as like outtakes or extras and just decide on like the one that we like the most. It risks continuity because then we like we may leave some stuff out that we like that we reference or talk about or something like that, but it's kind of like the compromise that lets us put like our best episode forward from that night without necessarily sacrificing material. And then there'll be a Patreon tier. There's like 12 Patreon tiers now I know that I've set up, but like but then we do have some content that we have held back that we can either fall back on for like if hypothetically if one or both of us are sick and we're not able to record for whatever reason. Like that also gives us sort of a buffer if we're not able to kind of record live every week.
I like that. Yeah, I really like that. Could potentially ruin our friendship as we try to decide which one we post.
There's like, and then we would just end up recording like the voting process, and it's all just content for the channel, Chelsea.
Which is so funny because I had like a long time ago, I had a list of like segments we could do, and I still sometimes think of them, and then I'm like, when are we actually gonna have time to do that?
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode where we've just like this is going to be the episode where we have segments.
The one with the segments.
The one with the segments, exactly.
Circa Friends. That's perfect.
We'll just build. It'll be the same. It'll
like
be the same thing as like all of the list you're keeping of all of the stuff that we like talk about bringing up and then never circle back to. We'll also just like build up a list of all of these things.
The one with all the stuff.
Yeah, and then we'll do all of those, and then the ones that we like we can take forward into the episode. I'll just like spring them. You won't know when, but at some point during this process, I'll implement a soundboard, and then we can do segments.
Yeah, I do think eventually we'll need to do segments. Once we figure out all of the logistics and we have a little bit more, like, we don't really have a routine.
Yeah, totally.
And that's weird.
That's our like, it's both our, it's our blessing and our curse.
Well, and in a sense, once we have a routine, it might put extra pressure, and then we might have to be like, oh, I can't do it today because I'm not feeling like it or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll just have to play it by ear with the segment.
We'll see how we feel.
Yeah, that would be good to insert some segments. Like, once we could do like a tester episode to see which ones we like the best. And then I would say, like, during an episode, if there's a lull, we could like be like, hey, let's do a segment. But that has never happened. So
yeah, actually, the recording paradigm that I just suggested does allow for us to do the thing that we talked about before, where we would talk over our own episodes and like MST3K ourselves. It does create that opportunity.
I'm not sure if the world is ready for that. Okay.
I don't even know how, like, what that structure would look like. I'm just thinking about how we would differentiate between like what the us of the present is saying versus the us of the recording is saying.
It would be, I'm already so confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. But I think that we're at the end of this one. I don't want to drag it out because I think it's been a really good episode.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah, I'm proud of us. This was good.
Totally. If you agree or disagree, or just really want to know what happened in episode 6, you can let us know in the comments or at thoughts@continuouschaos.ca or at the Twitter that we finally have and can both access.
Finally, we can both access. Yes.
Yeah. At Chaos Continued. I remember names.
And if any creators out there, my ask for anyone listening would be specifically if any creators have any feedback or their own anecdotes about, you know, their episode 6s or how they got through that or dealt with that. That would be really fascinating to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because everyone has an episode 6. This is just going to be like an inside joke now.
Yeah. I know. I'm actively trying to make it happen.
I know.
But yeah, this one was fun. I even feel better coming out of this than I feel like I probably did coming out of episode 6. So yeah, until next time.
Bye, everyone.